Do you agree with Eagles' decision to get rid of Doug Peterson?
No.
I told you this.
Terrible.
Terrible decision?
The worst decision that the Eagles could have made. Here's a problem, Marcellus. Usually you hear the phrase, you made your bed, you got to lay in it.
Yeah.
The problem is for the Eagles, general manager Howie Roseman has made the bed and has forced Doug Peterson to lay in it.
Oh, we're going here.
This
Division.
can all be brought down into this very simple analogy, very simple parallel. Howie Roseman has been shopping for the ingredients and telling Doug Peterson, you got to cook with what I bought you.
Oh.
And Doug Peterson is like, well, wait a second. If I got to cook, can I buy my ingredients? And Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are like, no, you are going to cook with what I, Howie Roseman, general manager, have bought you. Wait a second. You bought me Jalen Hurts in the second round. I didn't necessarily want Jalen Hurts. I don't care. Carson Wentz keeps struggling. Play Jalen Hurts. But I don't want to play Jalen Hurts. I want to play Carson Wentz. I don't care. Okay, you got me, and we still have Nate Sudfeld. In the last game of the season, I want Nate Sudfeld to get some burn. Well, Doug Peterson, what if I don't want to necessarily play Nate Sudfeld? Doesn't matter. Play him. And so Doug Peterson has now been looking around like, wait a second. I don't want to have to cook with the ingredients that you bought me. Let's look at the NFL organizations that have been great over the last several years, over the last decade. Bill Belichick, New England Patriots. Bill Belichick buys the ingredients and he uses the ingredients that he buys. He's a general manager. Pete Carroll with John Snyder. The buck stops with Pete Carroll. He gets to dictate the players that are on that roster. Andy Reid, Brett Veach. Andy Reid. He has the final say on what's going on in the Kansas City Chiefs roster. You can never have a fully functioning organization when the general manager sees a picture one way and the head coach sees a picture the other way. And that's what's happening in Philly. How are you going to fault Doug Peterson when it's really a management and managerial issue? It ain't Doug Peterson's fault they $75 million over the cap. That's not on the head coach. So I think completely idiotic decision. I'm going to get into the rest later.
I don't think it was idiotic. I think the writing was on the wall. We just didn't want to read it. And you pointed out, highlighted a lot of the ills that happened with this organization. And we know the great savior for Doug Peterson for this long was really that Super Bowl championship. But I think that was also the ultimate ending in that moment of greatness is also going to be what's going to undermine you. Let me just go into detail about that. Doug Peterson, it's a couple cliches and Wileyisms just floating through my head right now. Don't always try to be everything to everyone. Sounds like one. Be hot or cold, not lukewarm. I shall spit you out my mouth. Doug Peterson tried to ride the fence as long as somebody could ride the fence. And finally, he ripped his jeans. And finally, he said, I got to change these jeans. And he needed to change his scenery because of this. Now, he was fired, but in part, he was fired because he probably didn't want to go along anymore with this fence ride, being torn between decisions I want to make and decisions that are being made for me. Correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's what it usually comes down to in these type of situations. But here's the problem. Doug, you're the common denominator in so many ills with this organization. Let's talk about how Doug Peterson has a plan A. And plan A just never works out for Doug Peterson. Plan A, Carson Wentz is my guy. Okay, everybody, kumbaya, let's go with Carson Wentz. We got to use Nick Foles to get us our Super Bowl championship. Okay, no worries. Let's go to next year. Doug Peterson is looking like Carson Wentz, you're our guy again. Oh, damn, we got to use Nick Foles once again to save the day. Comes up short, but still a playoff push. Then the next year, all right, Carson Wentz, you're our guy, right? You're our guy. Now relax, just play into your role. Carson Wentz regressed to an NFL historical level. And Doug Peterson is still riding with Carson Wentz. When everyone is watching, we already drafted at that position for a reason, so use him as a resource. Don't just have a resource on your roster that you can use in case of emergency, but don't use them in case of emergency. So Carson Wentz plays 12 of the most futile games we've seen at that position based on the heights he had already accomplished. But Doug Peterson, once again, common denominator through all these. His plan A's never worked. Finally, we get it done. You over there exhaling. You mad at me? Finally, we get to the position where we are right now. Jalen Hurts does come in to save the day. Not necessarily the wins and losses, but give you the spark you needed. Also change the fate of this team this year, almost winning the division. But then what happens? Jalen Hurts can't even finish the season. And what occurs then? A controversy. Now, he only played 4 games, but now you got to deal with a controversy for 9 months because once again, Doug Peterson's plan A didn't work out. And once again, no matter what's going on in this organization, there's only one common denominator in all of the highs and unfortunately all the lows. Doug Peterson.
That's fair, but then let's also acknowledge that Doug Peterson has been the common denominator for the greatness for the Eagles. Eagles
said
start
that,
11-3 with
I agree.
Carson Wentz.
I agree.
What happens? Carson Wentz gets hurt, but Doug Peterson's still there, helps the team win the Super Bowl. Doug Peterson has been the common denominator when they made the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. Now, mind you, only 3 other NFC teams have made the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. Doug Peterson, 6th best record in the NFC since taking over in the last 4 years. Not since he got there, but in the last 4 years. Doug Peterson, 6th best record in the NFC. Marcellus, Doug Peterson could submit a blind resume and could say, hey, Jeffrey Lurie, owner of the Eagles, here is a resume. I have won the Super Bowl 3 years ago. I have made the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years. Only 3 other teams in the NFC have done so. And I also have the 6th best record in the NFC over the last 4 years. And the Eagles would look at this blind resume and say, wait a second, Super Bowl 3 years ago? One of 3 teams to make the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years? 6th best record in the conference in the last 4 years? Yes, you're hired. What's your name? Doug Peterson. Like me, Doug Peterson.
Spider-Man,
could
you.
submit his resume to the team that just fired him, and they would rehire him. That is how you know this is a terrible decision.
He can submit the blind resume, and then we do the Spider-Man. It's me. It's the same guy. But you have to be blind to hire him after you know all the details of his resume right here. First of all, you try to go with the simple, the Jerry Jones, Bill Parcells 2.0. Oh, man, you're not letting me cook with the groceries that I want to buy. Stop it. Stop it. If you're a coach, coach.
No.
Coaching.
No.
Oh, I hate at the NFL level all of a sudden. I need to be in control of everything, but still only be called the head coach. No. Since it works some places, it also doesn't work in some places. But we can get back into that narrative, but that's not even my point. I just don't like when I hear that. Doug Peterson, who's supposed to have been a quarterback whisperer, doesn't necessarily look like he whispered the right things into his quarterback's ears of late. You know why? Because Doug Peterson's record in his, 4 non-Super Bowl winning seasons with the Eagles was losing seasons with the Eagles. You keep saying blind resume, winning. Oh, you keep forgetting.
His total record?
Okay, let's go. His record since the Super Bowl?
9-7.
Losing.
9-7.
Losing.
4-11-1.
23-27-1, including the playoffs. Okay. Here's some knocks against Peterson. Since you want to play this game right now, let's play a little hot potato. Because you ain't going to throw these back. He's stuck with Carson Wentz too long. Be real. 3-8-1. Okay, whatever you want. Lose the division. A division you can win with 7 wins, but you're going to stick with your franchise guy, but end up still pulling him, while not pull him earlier so you can have a chance to win that division. You had the number 26 scoring offense in the NFL. Quarterback whisperer, you said? Lack of balance. They 62% passing, 38% run, especially when they had the leads. Few and far between, still when they had the leads. Second most penalized team in the NFL this year. I'll wait. I think that usually falls on the head coach and some discipline. I'm not done. There's some more hot potatoes.
Please.
Overly aggressive. We saw that too many times. Highest 2-point try percentage. How that worked out for your butts. Over there rolling the dice every time. Failure to get Miles Sanders involved and you still being a quarterback whisperer.
That one I will give you.
Whisper to your running back.
That one I will give you.
Okay. Bad play calling, not creative with the play calling, whatever you want to call it. Let's go back to 2-point play after 2-point play. Ravens, Giants games come to mind. How about the records of all your quarterbacks in this situation? How come your backups look better than your starter? All of that falls on your watch. All of that falls on your lap if you're Doug Peterson.
So, you know what else it falls on? The fact that for the first 14 weeks, the Eagles had 13 different offensive line combinations.
Yeah.
I would say it falls on that. I would also say it falls on the fact that Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, the 2 star tight ends, missed half the season at different points in time. I would say it falls on that. I would say it falls on the best deep threat receiver the NFL has ever seen statistically, Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
Missed about 13 games this season?
At least.
I would say it falls on that. Right. I would say it falls on Pro Bowl receiver Alshon Jeffrey, 6'5", 235 pounds. Didn't play until week 8 or 9 of the season and didn't really play well until week 13.
Until Jalen got there.
I would say it falls on that.
Jalen got there. Okay.
Jalen Hurts?
Yes.
Don't mention the other Jalen.
No.
Jalen Reagor. The first round pick
I know
that
my
Howie
name.
Roseman drafted. I would also say,
so when they don't work out, you drafted them. When they do work out, I coached them up.
No, here's the problem.
Come on,
the problem is this.
What's
the
this?
problem is you say this, hey, I'm going to buy you all these ingredients. You might not want them, but I'm going to buy them for you. You cook. Why you make a meal that I don't like? Well, I didn't want the ingredients. No. I'm buying you these ingredients.
Stop.
You cook. Hey, but I don't. Let's go back because you can remember.
I'm
this.
gonna go way back after you go.
Let's go back to Albert Haynesworth. You should have been in the league still then. 2007.
He got
Albert Haynesworth signs the biggest guaranteed deal in NFL history for anybody, but also a defensive lineman. For the Washington football team, y'all know their former name. Why? Because Dan Snyder, owner of Washington, said, "Hey, I want this guy." Well, the head coach, Mike Shanahan, was like, I don't want this guy. 7 years, $100 million. Albert Haynesworth signed that deal for. He didn't last 2 seasons.
I know.
Why? Because the person that wanted him, that bought the ingredients, bought them and handed them to a chef, head coach Mike Shanahan, who didn't want him. And Mike Shanahan was relatively public about it. Sal, you know that I'm not making this up.
No, you're not.
There has to be
I've been in this situation.
Communication and a direct connect between management and coaches.
There needs to be communication, but not agreement. I will agree with you in this respect. It happens all the time. And unfortunately, it's happened once again, and we still haven't fixed this age-old division. But, you know, big bank takes little bank. Be real.
That's
like,
real.
we all have bosses if you are an employee. And if you are an employee, if your name is not on your check twice, that means you're an employee, everybody out there. Because if somebody else's name on your check, guess what? You're working for them somehow, some way. In some form or fashion, you must assimilate. I don't care in what way you do it, you have to do it. In this situation, I hate when coaches get into a place where they're like, I didn't even want this. I didn't even want these groceries. But you can't cook. I'm going to give you an example. You said, let's go back. Let's go way back. Now, this is not a racial example, but it's just an example of showing, hey, you can still cook even if you don't buy the groceries.
Talk to me.
Let's talk about soul food. And I stopped eating soul food about a month ago. A little bit about a month ago. Nah, I love me some soul food. Boy, it's a weakness. It's like Cheetos and Hawaiian Punch. More. But here's the thing. How does soul food start? You really want to go there? It wasn't exactly Big Mama saying, hey, go get me some hog maws and some neck bones. That was left over. That was just the way it was. That is just what you were allowed to deal with. These are the groceries. Guess what? Big Mama figured out how to cook it, no matter what the groceries look like. And that's why we love Big Mama's food. Hey, great coaches, big mamas, big daddies, whatever you want to call them. If you can cook, I don't give a damn what I give you. Make a meal out of it. And it's crazy. He made a meal out of it. That shows he has the potential, but he's falling short of it.
But let's talk about it because we can talk about the greatest coach of all time in Bill Belichick. He was given some groceries that he couldn't cook with this year, and Cam Newton as well.
1 year.
But that's the point.
But in 20 years, he couldn't cook 14 years.
This is 1 year.
No. That record.
Doug Peterson was 9-7 last year. Playoffs.
Yeah.
9-7 the year before. Playoffs. 13-3 the year before. Super Bowl. 13-3. 9-7.
What was he this year?
9-7. He was 4-11-1. 1 year. It was 1 year. If I were to ask anybody with some common sense, is Doug Peterson more likely to be 6-10 or 10-6? The answer is blatant. 10-6. You can't look at this 1 year 4-11-1 and be like, you know what? Doug Peterson can't coach. You can't look at this 1 year in which all of their star receivers and receiving weapons were out and be like, Carson Wentz can't play and Peterson can't coach. No. That's entirely too reactionary.
Hold on, but it's not reactionary if you know what you're reacting to. You played in Philly.
Yes, sir.
You know Philly. You were in Philly when y'all went 10-6, and then what, 6-10? And then what happened after 6-10? Get out of there. Okay. Hey, man, you got to know where you are. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. When in Philly, know that you got a short leash no matter how great it's been. It's crazy. I agree. It's not uniform in how it's applied around the NFL. But there are some internal issues that went on that was supported by external issues. I'm on the outside looking. I'm like, this is a mess. Like, be real. You got a $128 million quarterback that can only win 3 games. And it's not because he's trying hard and doing his best and they just fall short. It's because he's part of the problem. Whether you signed off on him or not, you also hugged this guy in success. You can't now detach yourself from him in failure.
But let me ask you this. If a person starts a problem, isn't it up to that same person to be a part of the solution?
I love that,
yes. If they can. If Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz put themselves in this situation, again, I don't purely believe they did. What I believe happened is Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Jason Peters, Andre Dillard, offensive linemen. I believe that all them dudes getting hurt is a bigger factor in this problem than Carson Wentz just miraculously at 28 years old forgot how to play football. That Doug Peterson miraculously 2 years after winning a Super Bowl when the season started forgot how to coach. Like, what's more likely? That the injuries negatively impacted the Eagles roster, or that Carson Wentz at 28 years old just forgot how to play quarterback and Doug Peterson forgot how to coach? Like, let's just say what's more likely?
More likely is obviously that he's a great coach to good coach, not this kind of coach that gets fired. But also, let's say it in a real way. Sometimes even in success, you can see the issues coming. You can see the failures that are not being presented but that are looming. Here's the problem. Doug Peterson, you take away his successful great year, then you start seeing average, 9-7, 9-7. Like you start, and then this year, obviously, like you just take away his one shot. Like it almost looks like he was just lucky in 1 year and everything worked together because his backup saved the day. But that's not plan A. So now when we go with plan A is 9-7. And get knocked out of the first round. Plan A is 9-7, and our quarterback gets knocked out of the game. Like plan A is 4-11-1. Like that's plan A.
But let me say
and
this.
You can't keep riding like that.
But let me say this then. If you were going to tell me that the Super Bowl was an outlier, which I would vehemently disagree with, but if you wanted to go there, then we also have to say that 4-11-1 is an outlier.
Okay, so now we're just 9-7 with $130 million.
But now we're 9-7 in the playoffs, 9-7 in the playoffs. What we know is this. The Giants won Super Bowls with 10-6 seasons.
Yes.
The Ravens won Super Bowls shortly thereafter with 10-6 seasons.
Yeah.
The Packers won Super Bowls with 10. All you got to do is get into the dance. So if you want to take out the high outlier of Doug Peterson's 13-3 Super Bowl and the low outlier of Doug Peterson's 4-11-1 terrible year this year, you still stuck with 9-7 playoffs.
And that's the problem. They don't want to be stuck. I know that a lot of people just want to survive, but other people want to thrive. And it's one thing to be survivors in the NFC East. It's the NFC East, first of all. Yeah, like it's ripe right now for you to take it, and you're not taking full control over it. Here's my last point. And I knew Doug Peterson when I called him a political puppet, and I wasn't trying to disparage him. I was just trying to say, bro, get off that fence because you're speaking for an organization. Like he was taking the hits, the media hits, everything. And we knew Brett Favre, his boy, tried to help him and say, man, speak from conviction. Make a decision, right or wrong, and stick to it. Doug Peterson was doing this, riding the waves. They finally crashed on him. And now I can only blame him because I've seen coaches go out on their sword.
Yes, sir.
Like go out on their terms. Doesn't seem like he went out on his terms.
It
seemed like he didn't, right?
He didn't.
You can almost tell he went out trying to appease others, appease the situation, and then finally said, enough is enough.
Correct.
I'm out.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with that, and that's a really good take. But here's where I am. Here's my final point. Here's my last thought process.
Let's go.
When you're talking about head coaches, look across the National Football League. What's the most questionable thing that Doug Peterson did all year long? The most questionable this year was playing for the tie against the Bengals instead of going for the win. You remember that. That's the one game that the Eagles tied. But that questionable decision was also the same decision that kept the Eagles in first place through like week 13 of the season. Like that tie nearly won the Eagles the division. Yeah. The other questionable decisions people might say, you played Carson Wentz too long. You said that.
Yes,
I understand that.
Wow.
But Jalen Hurts was 1-3. If you don't want to give Jalen Hurts that last Washington loss, that's fine. That's fine. Now, keep in mind, he wasn't playing great through that, but if you don't want to give him that, that's fine. But Jalen Hurts statistically was 1-3. Carson Wentz was 3 whatever and whatever. Jalen Hurts was on track to win the same amount of games as Wentz. I know you hate saying on track, but I have no clear black and white data, so all I can do is project based on the analysis. Yeah. So Doug Peterson, he ain't even really do anything questionable all season. Howie Roseman made the bed. Doug Peterson had to lay in it.